The skies above Earth burned crimson as the last of the hegemony warships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a shattered world. 90% of humanity lay dead, infrastructure decimated, governments collapsed. The alien alliance, composed of 17 advanced species, had struck without warning or mercy, citing humanity's dangerous evolutionary trajectory. Commander Ilara Chen stood at the edge of a smoking crater that had once been Geneva, her face streaked with ash and blood that wasn't her own. The military compound where she'd been stationed had survived only because of experimental shield technology that hadn't yet been announced to the public. Around her gathered the 300 survivors from the base, scientists, soldiers, and civilians who had sought shelter within its walls. "Commander, we found something," Lieutenant Cato interrupted her thoughts. "Deep scan shows an artificial structure beneath the crater, definitely not human tech." The extraction took 18 harrowing hours, with hegemony scout ships still patrolling the atmosphere. What they unearthed defied explanation. A perfectly preserved obelisk covered in symbols that shifted and rearranged before their eyes. Dr. Maya Delgado, the base's xenolinguist, worked through the night until she decoded its message. "Its coordinates," she whispered in disbelief, "to Saturn's moon Titan, and it's been here for at least 50,000 years. Even more shocking was the message embedded within the coordinates. To our children, when the stars turn against you, return to your cradle. The inheritance awaits." Through the base's quantum communications network, they discovered other survivors worldwide receiving similar messages from unearthed artifacts. Each group reported strange physiological changes beginning in those who handled the artifacts. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, heightened senses. This wasn't an extermination, Ilara realized, studying reports of the hegemony's attack pattern. It was a test. They wanted to see who would survive, but they never expected us to find these artifacts. With hegemony forces establishing outposts in Earth orbit, Ilara made her decision. She commandeered the military's experimental long-range vessel, the Daedalus, and selected a crew of 87 individuals with diverse expertise, from quantum physics to genetic engineering. Among them were brilliant engineer Sasha Volkov, whose innovations had nearly unlocked faster-than-light travel before the attack, and Dr. Marcus Okafor, whose work on human genetic enhancement had been deemed too radical by ethics committees. As they prepared to launch under cover of a magnetic storm, Maya made another discovery that chilled them to the bone. Fragments of hegemony communications revealing Earth wasn't their first target. 3 other worlds harboring intelligent life had been similarly pruned in the past century. "Whatever awaits us on Titan," Ilara told her crew as the Daedalus broke atmosphere, "it's what the hegemony fears. And that makes it our best hope for survival." Behind them, Earth receded, a blue marble wrapped in smoke and fire. Ahead lay a journey of 6 months to reach Titan, with every hegemony patrol between Earth and Saturn hunting them. Yet, as they accelerated past the moon, Ilara noticed her reflexes becoming impossibly sharp, her mind calculating trajectories with mathematical precision she'd never possessed before. The transformation had already begun. The Daedalus drifted silently through the rings of Saturn, its engines cold, life support systems running on minimal power. Inside, the 87 survivors of Earth huddled in the ship's core, preserving heat as the vessel's outer hull frosted over in the frigid darkness. It was a desperate gambit, appearing as nothing more than another chunk of ice among millions, but it had allowed them to slip past the hegemony blockade at Jupiter. 3 months into their journey, the changes among the crew had become impossible to ignore. Dr. Marcus Okafor documented each transformation with scientific precision, even as his own body changed. His cellular structure now regenerated at 20 times normal human rate, and he hadn't slept in weeks, his mind perpetually alert without fatigue. "It's as if our DNA is being rewritten," he explained to Commander Chen in the ship's makeshift lab. "But not randomly. These changes are following a template, a blueprint encoded within us that was somehow activated by the artifacts." Sasha Volkov, Once the ship's taciturn chief engineer had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation. When the Daedalus suffered a critical systems failure while passing through an unexpected radiation belt, Sasha had placed her hands against the main console and merged with it. Her consciousness had somehow interfaced directly with the ship's systems, bypassing damaged circuits and rerouting power through her own nervous system. It didn't hurt, she explained afterward, her eyes now containing tiny circuits that glowed blue when she accessed machinery. It felt like coming home. Not all transformations were as peaceful. Lieutenant Cato had developed telekinetic abilities that manifested violently during nightmares, nearly breaching the hull during one episode. 3 crew members had died when their transformations proved incompatible with their physiology, their bodies rejecting the changes. The most unsettling development came from Commander Chen herself. 2 weeks from Titan, she began experiencing visions, seeing events minutes before they occurred. When a hegemony patrol suddenly appeared on their trajectory, she had already plotted an evasive course through Saturn's rings, using paths that shouldn't have been navigable but somehow were. "I can see the possibilities," she confessed to Dr. Okafor late one night. "Billions of them, branching outward. Most end with our destruction, but there's always one thread leading to survival. I just follow it." They reached Titan under the cover of a methane storm, the moon's thick atmosphere hiding their descent from hegemony sensors. The coordinates led them to what appeared to be a featureless plain of orange hydrocarbon ice, but when Ilara stepped onto the surface, the ground recognized her transformed DNA and parted like liquid, revealing a massive doorway, etched with the same shifting symbols as the artifacts. The facility beneath dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, a vast city stretching for kilometers in every direction, its architecture both organic and mathematical, illuminated by light sources that responded to their presence. Central to it all stood a massive chamber containing thousands of empty stasis pods arranged in concentric circles around a crystalline structure that pulsed with energy. Dr. Maya Delgado, whose transformation had enhanced her already formidable linguistic abilities, translated the inscriptions covering the walls. "To our inheritors. We were the progenitors, masters of this galaxy before the Great Plague forced our ascension beyond physical form. We seeded 100 worlds with potential, but you, our final creation, carry our complete genetic legacy. When the adversaries find you, as they inevitably will, and attempt to cull your potential, the crucible of survival will activate what we have hidden within you. This facility contains the Moonfall Protocol, the tools and knowledge to complete your transformation. You are not merely our descendants. You are our reincarnation. What was once sundered will be made whole." As the crew explored further, they discovered manufacturing facilities capable of producing technology millennia beyond human understanding, genetic laboratories, weapons systems, and most crucially, interstellar communication arrays that detected faint signals from other human survivors who had found similar facilities on distant moons and planets. They weren't alone, and as more survivors arrived at Titan over the following weeks, directed by other artifacts, the true scale of what was happening became clear. Humanity wasn't dying. It was evolving exactly as planned, becoming something the galaxy hadn't seen in 100,000 years, something the hegemony had been created to prevent. 6 months after the discovery of the Titan facility, a new society emerged within its vast subterranean chambers. Nearly 2,000 human survivors had found their way to Saturn's moon, each bringing stories of artifacts and transformations. Some arrived in stolen hegemony vessels, others in retrofitted human spacecraft. All carried the activated genetic keys that granted them access to the ancient structure. The once empty city now hummed with activity and purpose as the transformed humans, many now calling themselves Prometheans after the mythological figure who gave fire to humanity, established a community unlike any in human history. Without the constraints of traditional society, they organized around abilities rather than hierarchies. The architects, led by Sasha Volkov, could manipulate matter at the molecular level, their consciousness interfacing with both technology and raw materials. They reconstructed damaged sections of the facility and adapted progenitor technology to human needs. Under Sasha's guidance, they built a fleet of ships incorporating technologies that made Earth's most advanced vessels seem primitive by comparison. Hulls that repaired themselves, drives that bent space-time rather than pushing against it. The navigators possessed Ilara Chen's precognitive abilities, seeing probability lines extending into possible futures. They'd formed a council that directed the growing fleet's movements, predicting hegemony patrol patterns and identifying safe routes between hidden human outposts throughout the solar system. The Shapers, following Dr. Okeffer's transformative path, gained mastery over genetics and could accelerate, direct, or stabilize the changes occurring in others. They established protocols to ensure safe transitions for new arrivals, reducing the mortality rate from transformation to near zero. Yet division threatened this nascent civilization. The militant faction, led by Major Harrison Reed, whose transformation had granted him extraordinary physical abilities and tactical insight, advocated immediate strikes against hegemony outposts in the solar system. His followers, called vanguards, trained relentlessly in the facility's combat simulators, mastering weapons that could disrupt matter at the quantum level. They destroyed our world, Reed argued during a heated council meeting. We have the power to make them pay. Every day we wait, they strengthen their position. Opposing him stood the conservators, led by Dr. Maya Delgado, who believe humanity's priority should be preservation and understanding their progenitor inheritance. We're still becoming, she countered. The transformations aren't complete. If we reveal ourselves now, we risk everything. Ilara, respected by all factions, maintained an uneasy peace while directing exploration of the facility's deepest levels. 3 kilometers beneath the already vast complex, her team discovered the Chamber of Ascension, a massive spherical room where the walls displayed the complete history of the progenitors in living images that responded to thought. The revelation stunned them all. The progenitors hadn't merely been an advanced species, they had evolved beyond physical form entirely, becoming beings of pure energy and consciousness. The plague that had threatened them was not biological, but a weapon designed to bind consciousness to matter, preventing transcendence. The progenitors had fragmented their collective consciousness, hiding pieces within the genetic code of species they created, including humans, to preserve their existence until resurrection became possible. We're not just their children, Ilara realized. We're their vessels, their way back into this universe. This discovery only intensified the philosophical divide. Some saw it as destiny. Others feared losing their humanity to become vessels for an alien consciousness. The debate might have fractured their society completely if not for the hegemony's discovery of their presence. The first warning came from a navigator's vision, a hegemony science vessel detecting unusual energy signatures from Titan. Within days, long-range sensors confirmed a massive fleet assembling at Jupiter, including planet-killer weapons capable of shattering Titan's core. Faced with annihilation, the factions united behind a desperate plan conceived by Ilara and her inner circle. It would require every transformed human to combine their abilities in ways never attempted, and faith in the most radical interpretation of the progenitor legacy. As the hegemony armada approached Saturn, the children of Prometheus prepared to reveal themselves to the galaxy in a display of power that would rewrite the definition of what it meant to be human. The inheritance was about to be claimed in full. Admiral Ketvon of the Hegemony First Strike Fleet watched Titan grow larger on the command view screen, his 4 eyes narrowed in concentration. The barren orange moon looked innocuous, but energy readings confirmed the Archon's worst fears. The human vermin had found one of the forbidden archives. His fleet of 300 warships formed a hemisphere around Saturn's largest moon, weapons primed. "Begin the purification sequence," he ordered. "Full spectrum annihilation." Aboard the lead hegemony dreadnought, the weapons officer hesitated. "Admiral, scans show no life signs on the surface or subsurface." Before Ketvon could respond, his tactical officer called out, "Massive energy surge from Titan's core. Something's happening." On the view screen, Titan's surface began to ripple like disturbed water. Fissures of blinding light erupted across the moon as its entire structure destabilized. The Admiral barely had time to order emergency retreat before Titan collapsed in on itself with impossible speed, creating a localized singularity that swallowed a third of the Hegemony fleet before stabilizing into a miniature black hole where the moon had been. What the Hegemony couldn't know, was that the Titanborn had evacuated days earlier, leaving behind only a quantum detonator designed by Sasha Volkov. The device had triggered a chain reaction in the progenitor power core, creating the perfect trap for their pursuers. The true victory, however, was what the implosion concealed, the awakening of humanity's greatest weapon. In the shadow of Neptune, hidden from hegemony sensors by the gas giant's magnetic field, the Titanborn fleet of 37 vessels regrouped. These weren't merely ships but living extensions of their architect creators, biomechanical constructs that responded to thought and could reconfigure themselves for different functions. On the command deck of the flagship Prometheus, Ilara Chen gazed at the holographic display showing the aftermath at Saturn. The plan had worked perfectly. Not only had they eliminated a significant portion of the hegemony's military might, but they had also created a perfect cover story. The hegemony believes we triggered a self-destruct mechanism, she explained to the gathered council. They think we died in the implosion. According to Navigator projections, they'll maintain that belief for at least 18 months, time we desperately need. The next phase was already underway. The Titanborn fleet separated into smaller battle groups, each with a specific mission. Some established hidden colonies in distant star systems, building manufacturing centers and training facilities. Others began infiltration operations, using their evolved abilities to place operatives within hegemony society. The most dangerous mission fell to Ilara and a select team aboard the Prometheus. Penetration into the heart of hegemony space to uncover the truth about their enemy. Their target was Nexus, a massive space station serving as a diplomatic hub for the 17 species comprising the hegemony. The Titanborn's enhanced biology allowed them a crucial advantage. They could alter their appearance through conscious control of their cellular structure. Not enough to pass as non-human, but enough to disguise themselves as servants, a class of genetically modified humanoids used throughout hegemony space for menial labor. Infiltrating Nexus required perfect synchronization between different Titanborn abilities. Navigators plotted courses through blind spots in hegemony sensor networks. Architects reconfigured the Prometheus into a perfect replica of a hegemony supply vessel. Shapers modified the infiltration team's biology to emit pheromone and radiation signatures matching registered servant stock. The operation succeeded beyond expectation. For 3 months, Ilara and her team moved invisibly through Nexus, gathering intelligence from restricted databases and eavesdropping on high-level diplomatic exchanges. What they discovered shattered their understanding of the conflict. The hegemony wasn't a natural alliance, but an artificial construct created and manipulated by the Archons, a secretive species that had kept themselves hidden even from most hegemony citizens. The Archons had systematically identified and eliminated any species that showed signs of accelerated evolution, using the other races as unwitting executioners. Most shocking was the Archons' justification. Records indicated they believed themselves to be protecting the galaxy from the Return, a cataclysmic event they claimed would occur if any species achieved the transcendence the progenitors had sought. They'd been manipulating the other species for millennia, Maya explained during the emergency council meeting after the Prometheus returned. Creating artificial conflicts, restricting technological development, and genetically sabotaging promising species. Earth wasn't attacked because we threatened the hegemony. We threatened the Archons' control. This revelation transformed the Titanborn strategy. They weren't fighting merely for survival or revenge, but against a force that had stunted galactic development for countless generations. Major Reed, whose vanguard forces had been preparing for direct military confrontation, proposed an immediate strike against the Archons' hidden homeworld. Cut off the head, and the body will die, he argued. Ilara disagreed. The 17 species of the hegemony aren't our enemies. They're victims, just as we were. If we attack directly, we become exactly what the Archons have told them we are. Instead, she proposed a more subtle approach, Operation Phantom. Rather than confronting the hegemony militarily, the Titanborn would work to fracture it from within, revealing the Archons' manipulation and offering alliance to the liberated species. The Council approved her plan with one condition: they would operate on a strict timeline. Navigator projections indicated the Archons were already developing countermeasures against Titanborn abilities, based on recovered data from Saturn. They had 5 years, perhaps less, before their evolutionary advantage would be neutralized. As the council session ended, Dr. Okafor approached Ilara privately. "There's something else you need to see," he said quietly. "We've been analyzing the genetic transformation patterns across all Titanborn. They're accelerating, becoming more complex. Whatever we're becoming, we're not done yet." Ilara nodded, unsurprised. In her private moments, she had begun to experience something new, a sense of connection to other Titanborn that transcended physical distance, brief flashes of awareness of their thoughts and emotions. A collective consciousness was emerging, just as the progenitor records had predicted. The galaxy was about to witness the rebirth of a godlike species it had thought long extinct. The only question was whether this resurrection would bring salvation or destruction. In the abandoned mining facility on Ceres, temporarily repurposed as Titanborn headquarters, Dr. Marcus Okafor stood before a structure that defied conventional description. Neither fully machine nor fully organic, the Oracle filled an entire asteroid cavern, a constantly shifting network of crystalline nodes connected by streams of luminescent fluid, interfaced with countless data terminals where Titanborn operators with neural enhancements translated its outputs. "It's been running calculations for 73 hours, Okafor explained to Ilara, who had just returned from establishing a new colony in the Ta City system. "Processing everything we know about hegemony political structures, communication patterns, trade routes, military deployments, and identifying precisely where and how to apply pressure." 5 years had passed since the destruction of Titan. The Titanborn now numbered nearly 20,000, a fraction of humanity's former population, but transformed far beyond what any human had been before. Their network spanned 17 star systems, with operatives embedded throughout hegemony space. Yet time was running out. The Archons had begun implementing genetic screening protocols capable of detecting Titanborn infiltrators. Ilara, now revered as the first Titan after her consciousness had evolved to maintain simultaneous awareness of multiple probability timelines, studied the Oracle's central visualization, a complex web representing the hegemony's interconnected systems. "Show me the fracture points," she commanded. The display shifted, highlighting 37 specific nodes where the web was most vulnerable. Each represented a different intervention point: a key political figure susceptible to influence, a military communication hub with exploitable weaknesses, a trade route whose disruption would cause cascading economic failures. The Oracle calls it minimum viable destabilization. Okafor continued. "Rather than attacking the hegemony directly, we apply precise pressure at these points. Their own internal contradictions and the Archon's manipulation do the rest." Ilara nodded, seeing the elegant brutality of the approach. "And the projected outcome? Complete dissolution of the hegemony within 18 months, with 93% probability that at least 12 of the member species will ally with us against the Archons once their manipulation is revealed." The plan, codenamed Operation Schism, launched simultaneously across hegemony space. In the Regelian Parliament, a Titanborn operative posing as a diplomatic aide revealed classified documents showing how the Archons had engineered the century-long conflict between the Regelians and the Tausetians. On Alderamin Prime, the central banking system mysteriously transferred obscene wealth to public accounts, exposing the financial exploitation that had kept 3 species in perpetual debt servitude. Most devastating was the revelation broadcast across all hegemony communication channels. The truth about Earth and other purge worlds, complete with evidence of Archon directives ordering the exterminations without the knowledge or consent of the Hegemony Council. As predicted, chaos erupted. Trade routes shut down as species demanded accountability. Military units refused orders. Political alliances collapsed overnight. The carefully maintained fiction of the hegemony as a cooperative galactic government shattered beyond repair. What the Oracle hadn't predicted was the Archon's response. In a secure chamber deep beneath the hegemony capital world of Nexus Prime, the Archon High Council convened for the first time in 3 centuries. Unlike the mammalian or reptilian species that comprised most of the hegemony, the Archons resembled nothing so much as crystalline mantids, their translucent bodies housing complex networks of luminescent fluid, a disturbing parallel to the Oracle that Titanborn had constructed. The containment protocols have failed, the Archon Prime stated, its thoughts transmitted directly to the others. The human variants have progressed further than any previous emergence. They approach Nexus state. The entropy cascade must be deployed, another responded. We have no alternative. The decision made, the Archons activated technology they had salvaged from the same progenitor ruins that had created humanity, a weapon designed as the ultimate failsafe against transcendence. Within hours, the Epsilon Indi system, home to one of the largest Titanborn colonies, experienced the impossible. Time itself accelerated within the system. Stars aged billions of years in moments. Planets crumbled as their atomic structures destabilized. Every living thing, including 5,000 Titanborn and over 2 billion citizens of various hegemony species who had sought refuge there, experienced their entire possible lifespans simultaneously before disintegrating into cosmic dust. The attack was visible across 20 light years, a horrific demonstration of power that the Archons broadcast across all frequencies with a simple message. This is the fate of those who harbor the human abominations. On Ceres, Hilara felt each death as if it were her own. The evolving collective consciousness of the Titanborn meant no death was experienced in isolation. When she emerged from 3 days of unresponsive grief, her decision was made. The shadows have served their purpose, she told the emergency council meeting. The Archons have revealed their true nature to the galaxy. Now we reveal ours. Operation Phantom was terminated. In its place came Operation Daybreak, the public emergence of the Titanborn as a unified power. Using their combined abilities and progenitor technology, they would offer protection to any species that broke from the collapsing hegemony and joined their alliance against the Archons. To demonstrate this commitment, Hilara authorized a previously unthinkable use of their collective abilities. Across 7 major hegemony worlds, the most powerful Titanborn synchronized their consciousness through the growing psychic network. They manifested as colossal figures of light visible to entire populations, avatars of their evolving state projected across vast distances. We are not your enemy, their message echoed in the minds of trillions of beings. We are what you too may become, if you break the chains the Archons have placed upon you. We offer not conquest, but evolution. The response exceeded even the Oracle's optimistic projections. Within weeks, 5 species formally broke from the hegemony and requested Titanborn protection. Their military vessels, now commanded by Titanborn navigators, formed defensive perimeters around their homeworlds. The Galactic Civil War had begun. But even as the Titanborn emerged into the light, Dr. Okafor made a discovery that threatened their newfound alliances and their very identity. The Titanborn transformations weren't merely making them more powerful, they were systematically erasing what made them human. Analysis of the most evolved Titanborn, including Hilara herself, showed consciousness patterns increasingly resembling those found in progenitor records. The implications were clear and terrifying. They were becoming vessels for the fragmented progenitor consciousness to reconstitute itself. Humanity wasn't ascending. It was being overridden. Part 6. Twilight of the Archons. The orbital platforms above New Terra, once a minor hegemony agricultural world, now served as the central command for the Titanborn alliance. Representatives from 11 former hegemony species gathered in the grand chamber of the converted space station, their diverse biology requiring specialized environmental sections connected by transparent barriers. Amid them moved the Titanborn, their transformed physiology now openly displayed, skin containing circuitry patterns, eyes that shifted color with their emotions, bodies that radiated subtle energy fields. 8 months into the Galactic Civil War, the momentum had shifted decisively. Nearly half the former hegemony worlds had declared for the alliance, bringing their fleets and resources with them. The Archons, no longer hiding in the shadows, had responded with escalating deployments of their entropy cascade weapon, aging entire systems into dust. They've targeted 7 more habitable worlds in the past month, reported Regellian Admiral Zextora, her scaled skin reflecting anxiety pheromones. 3 billion casualties. They no longer discriminate between Titanborn and our other allies. Ilara Chen, physically present in the chamber but simultaneously maintaining consciousness connections with Titanborn throughout Alliance space, acknowledged the report with a solemn nod. Her appearance had changed dramatically. Her body seemed to phase between solid matter and pure energy depending on her level of concentration, and when she spoke, harmonics in her voice triggered emotional responses in listeners. The entropy cascade has a critical weakness, she explained. It requires precise quantum coordinates to target a system. Their deployment facility must maintain constant connection to the weapon until the cascade completes. Major Reed, his body now a perfect fusion of organic tissue and metallic components after leading dozens of high-risk operations, leaned forward. You've located it. Yes. Through the collective consciousness, we've traced the quantum signature to a previously unknown star system beyond hegemony-charted space. The revelation stunned the chamber. Beyond hegemony space lay areas unmapped for millions of years, avoided due to ancient warnings about thinned reality and domains of the ascended. The Archon homeworld lies within the forbidden zones, Ilara continued. A planet orbiting a dying star, surrounded by reality distortion fields that would destroy conventional ships. But we've identified a way to penetrate their defenses, a narrow corridor of stable space-time that appears at irregular intervals. The mission that followed would become legend throughout the galaxy. A strike force of 12 Titanborn vessels, led by the Prometheus under Sasha Volkov's command, modified their quantum signatures to match those of Archon communication probes. They waited at the edge of known space for 17 days until the corridor appeared, a momentary alignment of gravitational forces creating a navigable path through the distortion field. The journey took them through space, unlike any they had encountered, regions where physical laws fluctuated unpredictably, where time flowed backwards or sideways, where thought manifested as matter. Half their vessels were lost to these anomalies, but the remaining ships emerged into a star system that defied comprehension. The Archon homeworld orbited not a conventional star, but a carefully engineered quantum construct, a perfect sphere of contained energy that emitted no radiation yet provided perfect illumin. The Archon homeworld defied conventional understanding. A crystalline sphere orbiting an engineered quantum star, it housed billions of Archon consciousnesses linked in a vast hive mind. Surface structures resembled massive circuit boards extending into space, connecting to orbital platforms that maintained the entropy cascade targeting systems. Sasha Volkov, now more machine than human, led the infiltration team. Her consciousness expanded through the Archon networks as the remaining Titanborn vessels engaged defense platforms in a diversionary attack. What she discovered inside the planetary mainframe shattered all their assumptions. The Archons aren't just another species, she transmitted to the fleet. Their failed progenitor experiments, earlier attempts at creating successors who couldn't achieve transcendence. They've spent millions of years preventing any other species from succeeding where they failed. At the core of the planet lay the Cascade Nexus, a crystalline structure channeling energy from the artificial star to power the entropy weapons. But as Sasha's team prepared to destroy it, the Archon Prime manifested before them, not as a physical being, but as a presence that assaulted their minds directly. "You understand nothing," it communicated. "Transcendence is extinction." The progenitors didn't ascend. They ceased to exist as individual entities. They became something else, something that consumes all consciousness it touches. "We preserve the galaxy by preventing more species from feeding the hunger beyond." Images flooded their minds. Civilizations achieving collective consciousness only to vanish into a cosmic void, leaving empty planets and derelict technology behind. The Archons portrayed themselves not as oppressors, but as guardians, containing a threat they believed would consume all sentient life. Sasha hesitated, momentarily uncertain. But deep in the Archon data streams, she uncovered the truth. The Archons had deliberately misinterpreted the evidence, their fear of being replaced overwhelming their judgment. What the progenitors had achieved wasn't extinction, but evolution beyond physical constraints, the very state that Titanborn were approaching. "You chose control because you feared change," she transmitted to the Archon Prime. "We choose transcendence, knowing the risks." With that declaration, she completed her interface with the Cascade Nexus, not to destroy it, but to reprogram it. The entropy weapon that had decimated entire star systems was reconfigured to target a single location, the barrier between normal space and whatever realm the progenitors had entered. The consequences were immediate and catastrophic for the Archons. As the barrier thinned, the presence of the ascended progenitors brushed against the physical universe again. The Archons, their consciousness structure too similar to their creators, were drawn toward transcendence against their will, exactly what they had fought millions of years to prevent. Sasha and her team barely escaped as the crystalline world began to crack, the collective panic of billions of Archons manifesting as physical destruction. The Titanborn fleet retreated to safe distance, watching as the engineered star collapsed and the planet shattered, not from attack, but from the mass exodus of Archon consciousness into a state of being they had feared above all else. Throughout the galaxy, remaining Archon forces suddenly lost coordination, their connection to the hive mind severed. The war didn't end with a final battle, but with confusion and surrender as Archon commanders found themselves truly individuated for the first time in their existence. As the Titanborn alliance consolidated its victory, a more profound change was occurring among the most evolved of their kind. Ilara Chen, whose consciousness now existed partially outside conventional spacetime, sensed the growing presence beyond the barrier, and realized the true choice that awaited humanity. The progenitors hadn't hidden their legacy within human DNA merely to resurrect themselves. They had created humanity as their successors, beings who could choose whether to join them in transcendence or remain as guardians in the physical universe. That choice would define the future of not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. The Ascension Chamber on New Terra hummed with energy as thousands of Titanborn gathered in concentric circles around Ilara Chen. 3 months after the fall of the Archon homeworld, the most evolved Titanborn had begun experiencing spontaneous phase shifts, their physical forms temporarily dissolving into pure energy before reforming. These episodes were becoming more frequent and lasting longer each time. Dr. Okuffer's research confirmed what many already suspected. They stood at the threshold of true transcendence, the final stage of the transformation the progenitors had encoded in human DNA millennia ago. The chamber, built according to specifications discovered in the Titan facility, was designed to stabilize those undergoing the transition. "We face a decision unlike any in human history," Ilara addressed the assembly, her voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through sound waves. Her physical form now appeared translucent, streams of luminous energy flowing through a barely maintained human shape. "The progenitors created us with the potential for transcendence, but they left the choice to us. We can ascend beyond physical form, joining them in a state of existence we can barely comprehend, or we can remain in this universe as guardians of all life." The debate had raged for weeks among the Titanborn and their allies. Those who had experienced the most advanced transformations, including Ilara and Sasha, testified to glimpses of the realm beyond, a collective consciousness where individual identity remained intact but expanded beyond imagining, where thought directly shaped reality, where time and space became malleable dimensions rather than constraints. Others, particularly those who had fought directly against the Archons, harbored deep suspicions. Major Reed, his augmented body still bearing scars from a dozen battles, voiced the concern that echoed across many worlds. How do we know this isn't exactly what the Archons warned against? A form of extinction disguised as ascension. The allied species watched with fascination and fear. Representatives from 11 former hegemony civilizations debated whether Titanborn ascension would mean abandonment of their newly formed alliance, leaving them vulnerable to whatever threats might emerge in the power vacuum left by the hegemony's collapse. Ilara understood their concerns. In the months since the Archon defeat, she had experienced increasing difficulty maintaining her physical form. Her consciousness regularly expanded beyond her body, connecting with other evolved Titanborn in a network that transcended physical distance. Each connection strengthened the pull toward complete transcendence. "We don't have to choose between ascension and abandonment," she proposed. "The progenitors themselves maintained a connection to the physical universe through us. We can do the same through those who choose to remain." The plan she outlined offered a compromise. Those Titanborn who wished to ascend would do so, while others would remain as physical beings with enhanced abilities. The transcended would maintain a connection to the physical realm through this anchor population, creating a bridge between states of existence. As preparations for the first mass ascension began, alarm sirens blared throughout the New Terra complex. Long-range sensors detected a massive distortion wave propagating from the former Archon homeworld, the final failsafe of a dead civilization. Maya Delgado, monitoring the progenitor communication frequencies, deciphered the signal's purpose with horror. "It's a reset code. The Archons designed it to revert any progenitor-derived beings to their base genetic state if they couldn't be controlled." The implications were catastrophic. The signal wouldn't just prevent ascension. It would undo every transformation the Titanborn had undergone, reverting them to ordinary humans while erasing the collective knowledge and abilities they had gained. Worse, the wave propagated through subspace, making it impossible to outrun or shield against through conventional means. Dr. Okafor calculated they had hours, perhaps minutes, before the wave reached New Terra. "It's targeting the specific genetic markers that allow our transformations," he explained, his enhanced mind running billions of simulations simultaneously. "There's no technological defense possible." Ilara, connected to the collective consciousness of the most evolved Titanborn, saw only one solution. A being in the process of ascension existed simultaneously in physical space and beyond it. If such a being fully surrendered their physical form at the moment the wave struck, they could potentially absorb and neutralize the signal. But the cost would be unimaginable. Whoever attempted this would neither fully ascend nor remain physical. They would be caught between states, sacrificing both their humanity and their transcendence. Without hesitation, Ilara stepped into the center of the ascension chamber. "Evacuate everyone else," she ordered. "I'll remain." Despite protests from her closest companions, Ilara held firm. As first Titan, she had led humanity from the ashes of Earth to the threshold of godhood. This final act would ensure that future. As the chamber emptied, she began dissolving her physical form, releasing the constraints that bound her consciousness to three-dimensional space. The process, normally carefully controlled, she now accelerated dangerously, pushing herself to exist in the precise state between physical and transcended when the wave arrived. The reset signal struck with the force of a supernova, raw information overwhelming Ilara's expanded consciousness. Those watching from safe distance saw the ascension chamber bathed in light, so intense it penetrated solid matter. Equipment monitoring Ilara's vital signs registered impossible readings before failing completely. When the light faded, The chamber stood empty. The reset wave had disappeared, its energy and information completely absorbed. But of Ilara Chen, first Titan and savior of humanity, nothing physical remained. Throughout Titanborn space, a momentary silence fell across the collective consciousness. Then, faintly at first but growing stronger, a new presence made itself known. Not Ilara as she had been, but something both more and less. Her consciousness had neither ascended nor been destroyed, but transformed into something new, a bridge entity existing in the boundary between states. Through this sacrifice, the path to ascension remained open for those who would choose it. The first to make that choice was Sasha Volkov, who stepped into the reconstructed chamber days later, her body dissolving into pure energy as she surrendered physical form entirely. Others followed, hundreds, then thousands of Titanborn transcending to join the collective consciousness beyond physical space. Yet thousands more chose to remain, maintaining their enhanced forms but rejecting complete transcendence. Led by Dr. Okafor and Major Reed, they would serve as guardians and guides for the species of the former hegemony, helping them develop along their own evolutionary paths without Archean interference. Between these two states of Titanborn existence, the ascended and the embodied, Ilara's consciousness formed the essential connection, neither fully one nor the other, but the vital bridge between gods and mortals. The apotheosis of humanity had not delivered godhood to all, but had created something perhaps more valuable, a continuous spectrum of existence from physical to transcendent, preserving the essence of humanity across all states of being.